Get free tech advice for your business from O2 Gurus. Search O2 Business for more.
Hey guys, it's Basil here with BTech and Wearable, and you are watching my Apple Watch review. We've seen a lot of smartwatches pass through our offices since the Pebble happened. Square, circular, band-shaped. The overriding take-home with each was that the smartwatch category isn't quite ripe enough just yet. As such, what we've tended to do as reviewers is compare smartwatches to other smartwatches, but give recommendations with major caveats, i.e. only really get one if you're an enthusiast. But now Apple has decided to join the smartwatch race. That must mean they've cracked it, right? Well, ish. Well, not really, but sort of. It's literally going to take my entire review to explain what I mean, so strap in because this is going to be a big one. In a break from tradition, I'm going to start with an entire section devoted to pricing because, well, this is one of the hardest pricing structures to understand ever. I've got the 32mm Apple Watch Sport. It's the cheapest option. It's aluminium and it starts at £299. The stainless steel Apple Watch starts at £479. And the 18-karat Apple Watch Edition starts at £8,000. If you're wondering what the most expensive Apple Watch is, it's the £13,500 rose gold Apple Watch Edition. So in the world of Apple Watches, my sport model with its neon green strap is relatively humble, but it still costs more than any Android Wear device that I've seen. There are a ton of straps out there ranging from £30 right through to £300, and like the watches, the straps are available in 38 and 42mm sizes as well. So that's why it's pretty complicated, especially when this is an all-encompassing review of the Apple Watch, and there are so many to choose from. As for how the prices stack up against Android Wear devices, you can pick up a plastic Sony Smartwatch 3 for £150, a metal one for £200. The Asus ZenWatch is around £180, while the LG Urbane is £250. But here's the thing, Apple's watch looks, but more to the point, feels better than the rest. This largely comes down to the size. It isn't overly thin, but it is compact and doesn't look out of place on slender wrists. In contrast to the compact form, both the button and the crown on the right-hand side are oversized, making them very easy to press. The crown is also incredibly easy to maneuver, leaving virtually nothing to be desired in terms of ease of use. With our Sports Edition, the glass on the front is curved and beautifully melds into the aluminium body, as it does indeed with the stainless steel and gold version too. The strap, albeit plastic, holds its form nicely, and it doesn't tug against your hairs, which is good if, like me, you have slightly hairy arms. Around the back is a slight bump, and that's the heart rate monitor. You've also got a couple of unclasping buttons as well. This is without a doubt the easiest and most elegant unclasping solution that I've seen to date, which makes it totally understandable how you can just change them on a whim and in turn have a nice selection, albeit a very expensive nice selection. The range of straps and styles illustrates a key way that Apple's made its wearable a lifestyle and fashion choice rather than just a tech choice. And so with the Apple Watch, you get that quality assurance when it comes to design that you tend to get with Apple products, whether it's the £299 model or the £13,000 model. Moving on to the display, and its Retina resolution looks crisp when paired against that 1+ inch of OLED screen tech. The 38mm variant has a 1.5-inch display, while the 42mm variant has a 1.7-inch display. Even though I'm reviewing the 38mm option, you'll want to go for the larger version if you have larger hands. It's also worth noting the larger version has slightly better battery life too. As far as quality goes, it should come as little surprise that AMOLED was absolutely the right choice for Apple to go with here. The depth of AMOLED blacks takes full advantage of the black background on the watch faces, melding seamlessly with the fascia itself. The screen itself is obviously touch sensitive and it's responsive too, with great viewing angles and easy viewability whether you are indoors or out. There's very little else to say about the screen, aside from of course giving it our thumbs up. But now onto the part that no other smartwatch has truly nailed, the user interface. This is a new operating system. It won't be familiar to anyone and it will take some getting used to. Given the fact no one's done wrist-based OSs right though, this is potentially no bad thing. As far as physical inputs go, you have a power button and a crown on the right hand side. You can press both and the crown twists. You also have a touchscreen which emulates pressure sensitivity. The button presses very easily and the crown rotates with an elegant finesse. Pressing the crown toggles between your apps and your watch face. When in the applications menu, just rotate the crown to zoom in and out of your applications and press the screen when you want to select one. Siri's in there too. Just long press the crown to activate her. The power button either switches your smartwatch on or off, or it activates Friends, which is effectively a quick contact list, allowing you quick access to your favorite people. Being a watch, the default screen is your watch face, and this shows various types of information from a simple clock face right through to calendar information and even weather and stuff like that. You can change your watch face by pressing the screen firmly. This activates some nice haptic feedback, i.e. vibration, and then allows you to swipe through a range of them. It's worth noting the vibrations throughout the Apple Watch's UI, termed haptic feedback, are really brilliant. Kind of does feel like someone's prodding you, which is much nicer than a general which just feels a little bit too mechanical for something on your wrist. If you swipe down from the top of the screen when in your watch faces, you can see your notifications, and these mirror what's going on your iPhone. Pull your watch face up and you can see your glance screens. These are quick access screens where you can do things like check your heart rate, control your music, or keep up to date with your stocks. There are a ton of glance screen options by default, which is cool, but what's even better is the fact that third-party manufacturers can take advantage of these and make their own. Instagram, for example, showcases a feed of images. BBC News showcases the latest news stories. Hardly revolutionary, but happy the integration is in there nonetheless. So that's a key interface, but what about the applications themselves? First off, on the smartphone side, there's the Apple Watch app as part of iOS 8.2. This gives you control over virtually every aspect of your Apple Watch, right through from the application screen layout to what apps use your glance screens, brightness and text size, and whether you want your text to be bold or not. It really is beautifully extensive. The watch itself is virtually dependent on being paired with an iPhone for anything more than, well, being a pedometer and a timepiece. There are loads of apps compatible with the watch though, which is awesome considering how new it is, and they all have varying degrees of interactivity. Instagram shows you a feed in which you can like and view photos, which is pretty much all you need from Instagram on your wrist. MyFitnessPal shows you how many calories you have left in the day, gives you a breakdown of the macros you've consumed, and in addition to that, ties the pedometer of the Apple Watch in with the readings of the application itself. Some apps are really extensive. Evernote goes so far as to allow you to search through your entire list of Evernotes. You can also create a new document using the microphone, just talking into your watch, and it'll recognize what you say. The voice recognition is also pretty on point, provided you're somewhere relatively quiet. This app integration really impressed me. Android Wear app integration is sketchy at best. Apps on the Apple Watch are inconsistent and temperamental at times, but one thing they also are is infinitely richer, and they showcase oodles more potential than those found on Google's wrist-based operating system. The apps are also much easier to access than on Android Wear, and the app support is really promising considering the infancy of the OS. Ironically, therefore, the biggest letdown when it comes to apps come from Apple's own ecosystem and big names, mainly communication apps. There's no Facebook, Gmail, or WhatsApp beyond simple notifications, for example. Apple Map directions are miles behind Google Maps, excuse the pun, and health integration feels unusable in its half-baked state. Even apps that look and feel relatively slick from Apple fail to be completely reliable. The guys at Wearable found a full day between sending an iMessage and it being delivered to its recipient. As for my efforts, it just flat out failed when I tried to text someone, but it did deliver an iMessage without too many hiccups. The watch also works as a Bluetooth receiver taking calls, which is another area it doesn't feel particularly Apple. You have to be in a quiet room, it's impractical when driving, and you have to shout at your wrist. Well, it's just a bit naff really. Ultimately, therefore, I wouldn't use the Apple Watch as a communication device unless I absolutely had to. So what is it good for? Well, it has to be good for exercise, right? It's water resistant with a heart rate monitor on the underside. It's geared towards active people like the ever radiant Christy Turlington Burns. It tells you to get up if you're sitting too long, and the review version I have has sport in the name. Doesn't get much more explicit than that. For serious enthusiasts though, this one isn't for you. The first reason, no GPS. The second reason, the heart rate monitor. With no GPS to accurately track your run or cycle, you are going to have to take your smartphone with you. For me, a big thing the Apple Watch does is bypass you having to use an oversized iPhone 6 Plus, for example. So if you do have an iPhone 6 Plus, the Apple Watch could be cool. But imagine running with an iPhone 6 Plus in your hand or strapped to your shoulder. Not my idea of a good time. As for the heart rate monitor, results are fair to good, especially when it's on your wrist and you are doing exercise, because your heartbeat is very, very strong. If it's a little bit loose, readings aren't quite so accurate when you're resting. And if it's on a surface, it can totally misread everything. It had me down as having a heart rate of 200 plus beats per minute when I'd taken it off for an hour. What this in turn did is totally threw off all the graphs and readings that I'd worked so hard to collect, and in turn made them all useless. So for one-off readings, fine, it works a treat, more accurately than most, if not all smartwatches that I've personally tested. But for constant tracking, not so much. One thing the watch has a lot of potential to do is visually illustrate how much movement you're doing. So for casual exercisers or people who just want to get a little bit more active, it's not too far off the mark. In the same breath though, it told me to stand when I was already standing. It measured 29 minutes of exercise when I'd actually done about 2 hours in a day. It's just not as accurate as it needs to be, so don't rely on it as a gospel truth for how much exercise you are actually doing. If you're a little bit more serious about exercise like running and want a smartwatch with a GPS, the Sony Smartwatch 3 is waterproof and it also packs that GPS I'm talking about. If you're even more serious and want a dedicated fitness tracker, check out wearable.com/fitness-trackers. So it's been hit and miss so far. And that leads me to my last point, battery life. The Apple Watch uses a proprietary charger, strike one. But on the plus side, it's magnetic, easy to affix the watch to, and has a nice long cable. The actual watch itself has a tiny cell, just over 200 milliamps for the 38mm version and slightly more for the 42mm version. This sent shivers down my spine when I first heard it. But you know what? Most smartwatches last a full day, and the Apple Watch is no exception. By the evening, I had about 20 to 30% battery left, which is more than I tended to have on a Moto 360, for example, which left me pleasantly surprised. Smartwatches are ultimately flawed in this category, so as far as the competition goes, this doesn't fare any worse. And of course, there's a power saving mode on there too, so you can squeeze a little bit more juice if you're prepared to limit that connectivity. So with the Apple Watch not really losing out to its competition in too many departments, we should really easily be able to recommend one, right? After all, it packs better design than any other smartwatch out there. The fit and finish and the range of styles are truly exceptional. The UI is innovative and the app selection extensive. It's also, in my opinion, the best iOS smartwatch available right now. But it costs a lot of money, so expect to pay above the odds there. As innovative as the UI is, it can be clunky in places and everything about it isn't nicely tied up just yet. Communication and sports tracking are also pretty lackluster if that's what you're intending on using the device for. Finally, battery life is acceptable for anyone willing to charge nightly, like any smartwatches should be ready to do. But when you compare it against a real watch, it's not looking so great. The more I used the Apple Watch, the more I liked it. Not so much because I could do crazy amounts of stuff with it, but more because I had a good looking timepiece on my wrist that relayed notifications. It really is that simple. I did use the applications. I used the heart rate monitor when I was in the gym. I used Instagram when I was bored in a queue for a couple of minutes. I used MyFitnessPal to see how many calories I had left in the day. And I used the music control to change my tracks when listening to Spotify. If that sounds like it's worth around £300+ to you, you're into tech, or more to the point, Apple tech, and you've got an iPhone, you probably already have an Apple Watch by this point too. If you don't, I could pretty comfortably recommend one if you've got the cash to spend. Specifically, I'd see the Apple Watch as being really useful for ladies or gents who like to leave their phones in their bags. It really does save you having to pull it out every time you want to check your notifications. But for anyone who's on the fence, isn't really sure this is worth the money, or expect a lot more from your smartwatch than the Apple Watch can offer, watch this space. The Apple Watch UI is very, very new. It will likely only get better over the coming years, and you never know what's coming in the Apple Watch 2. Hopefully you've enjoyed my review. If you have, click that like button. Obviously I've been Basil with BTech. Make sure if you do like the channel, subscribe to it. That's how you stay on top of everything that I do. If you've got any questions about the Apple Watch or anything that I've spoken about, just fire them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.
Get free tech advice for your business from O2 Gurus. Search O2 Business for more.